Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the world's most famous podcast, produced by Beverly Magazine. I'm your hostess, Jacqueline Maddison. Today, our guest is Mike Wood, the founder of Learn to Love Being You. Mike has spent over 40 years overcoming severe anxiety and depression. Through his journey, he created a powerful 10-week program that transforms lives. His work guides people in breaking free from trauma and negative beliefs. In this episode, Mike shares the tools that he teaches to help others reclaim emotional control, peace, and deep self-love. So get ready for a powerful, healing conversation with real-life insights that inspire. Let's welcome Mike to the show. Mike Wood, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I am wonderful. Thank you. I'm doing wonderful.
I'm so glad to hear it. So let's not waste any time. Tell us about your journey with anxiety and depression and how you got to the point where you are today in your healing.
Okay, absolutely. I dealt with anxiety and depression at a pretty high level all the way till I was about 45 years old.
Wow.
Started having some success in life and reaching some milestones and goals, but I just started to realize that nothing was truly making me happy. I always thought the next best thing was going to make me happy. Got a better job, made more money, found the perfect wife, and nothing truly made me happy.
You and everybody else. I think that our culture is so materialistically driven that they forget and neglect the spiritual self, the deeper inner being that really needs the love, care, and nurturance to grow and be healthy.
Yeah. So at one point, I really felt like, I'm a COO of Jarrett Companies, and at some point along the way, I was the 12th employee hired, and we had blown this thing up. And over a 10-year period, we went from $2.5 million a year to $90 million a year. And so we had this massive, expansive thing, and in the middle of it, we had some roadblocks. Like we stumbled a little bit, and so we had to fix some problems. And so I was the fireman. I was going to run and go fix all these problems. And for about 6 months, we revamped everything. We just looked at everything, revamped it. And I got to the end of that, and I was trying to figure out ways, and I realized I was self-reflecting, like, where did I mess up? What did I do wrong along the way? And I just started taking that focus that I had been on to try to fix everything else, and I turned it inward. And that really started a spiritual journey for me. Got a little bit of taste of meditation and just taking that focus inward. And I'm not the same person. I'm not the same person anymore. I've had such an amazing journey inward, and I experience life at such a beautiful way now that my anxiety and depression is gone. Like, it's such a thing of the past. It's been beautiful to experience life in a different way.
I'm so glad to hear that. And it's so true. I think when we all start giving the attention to our spiritual growth, we experience that personal transformation because we detach from the physical and we go inward. And so for you, this was sort of a journey and an inspiration for your Learn to Love Being You program. Tell us about that.
So basically, to sum it up real quickly, is everything that I did to heal me is kind of a summarized deal. So when I went on this journey, I kind of went with a ferocity. I started to the point where I was meditating 2 and 3 hours a day. I was consuming about 20 books a month.
Wow.
I just went on a very large thing. And then one of the things that I stumbled across was a guy in town by the name of Chris Hancock. And he is what was called an energy healer. At that time, I was realizing I could quiet my mind by feeling the energy in my hand. And so when I saw this energy healer on the internet advertising their services to heal your energy, I was just intrigued, and I started going. And I learned how to go back to old childhood memories where trauma was created and reframe it all with compassion, love, forgiveness, and make it go away. Most people go to a therapist and they talk out their problems, but they're just bringing it up to the surface, and you talk about it forever. It doesn't
Right.
go away. It haunts you forever. We can physically go back and rewrite old core beliefs and make it go away. And along my journey, I developed my own writing exercise so I could do it myself. And then I started sharing it with people, and I was just blown away that it actually worked. And then
Mm.
I was like, holy moly, like the world needs this. This is such a powerful thing because
Yeah.
along my journey going back and healing from my past trauma, when I got about 20 in, I realized that all the negative self-talk that was coming through my head, it was quieting. It was getting a whole lot quieter, and it wasn't as strong anymore. I realized that I was different than I was a year ago.
Yeah.
Well, I'm probably 150 in now. And whenever wake up and I have one of those moments where I feel funky and whatever, I
Mm.
know it's like a gift. I'm celebrating. Yes, I feel really crappy today, but this is a gift because now I get to go back and find another core belief
Right.
that no longer serves me. I can go back, reframe it with love, compassion, forgiveness, and make it go away too. So it's turned my life into a place of joy where I could just sit on a chair and be happy all day long. And I just, at this point, somewhere along my journey, I realized that whenever I would see people speaking negative, or when I would see people in pain and just going through different problems, I know where it's all coming from because I knew how to find mine. And I was able to see it in everyone. And at first, it felt like a curse, but over time, it was a gift, and it's just part of life and whatever. Everybody's got to walk their own path. So I kind of made peace with it a little bit, but now I just want to share what I've learned over my time with the world, so we could other folks can kind of share the life that I'm experiencing because it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a similar experience as well. And so I'm a born again Christian, and the Lord started telling me, you need to nurture your inner child. And so I would do that and then also uncover some of these childhood wounds that I didn't even know were still there or impacting my present conscious being. But when I did some energy work you speak of and healed those wounds, it was like a release, a weight off my shoulders. And I think you're right. A lot of people are walking around with unhealed childhood wounds. And imagine a world where we were all healed and all of those,
Oh
the
man,
pain and suffering and anger and bitterness from those wounds was healed. We could experience heaven on earth.
exactly.
That's why I love what you're doing, and your work is so important. So how does someone know if they're stuck in a negative belief cycle or have an unhealed trauma wound or childhood wound?
So the thing is, and this is a pretty amazing thing. When I understood this, I, I, it was transformative to me, and I'll share that with you. It's just understanding how the subconscious mind is programmed. It's such a powerful thing that the subconscious mind is a million times more powerful than the conscious. Like when we get up and we drive, we don't think about driving. We could talk on the phone and we don't even remember driving, but we
Mm.
weren't unsafe. We're driving unconsciously. We're driving subconsciously. It's a program, the same way we walk, the same way we talk. We don't think about it. We just do it because we program that subconscious mind. Well, if you imagine that there's a 2-year-old kid walking along the edge of a pool and he falls in, okay, the subconscious mind is going to hold that memory of that kid almost drowning. It's going to impress that into that child to try to protect him. Okay, it wants it to save its life. It doesn't want him to walk along the pool again and fall in, and maybe nobody's there to save him this time, and now he drowns. So the subconscious mind is going to say, "All right, that's a fearful, negative thought that this needs to be held at a high level." The problem is well, when we attach things to our ego, like we are, like me, I'm a COO. If I attach that to my ego, if you were to tell me right here on this podcast that I am the horrible COO, well, that's going to hurt me because now that's an attachment.
Right.
Well, the subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between the an attachment to my ego that I created. I
Mm.
created that image of a COO
Mm.
and my true self, somebody putting a gun to my head.
Yeah.
It's going to respond the same way. So the subconscious mind is literally just trying to protect us, but it's trying to protect us from falsehoods that we create. And
Right.
so when the subconscious mind is
Threatened?
when it gets threatened, it's
Yeah.
gonna pull up all that old stuff. And here's it's kind of a curse, but it's once you understand what it is, it becomes a blessing because everything happened in the present moment. The subconscious mind has zero
Mm.
concept of time.
Mm.
So if you were 10 years old and one of your caregivers, your mom, your dad, uncle, cousin, whatever, puts you in an elevated emotional state and left you feeling there's four major things. Either you left were feeling ugly, stupid, unlovable, or unworthy. And so you're in an emotional state and you feel that way.
Yeah.
Well, that's what gets programmed into your subconscious mind. So if you were left to feel stupid, 30 years later, you're trying to start a business and you don't feel like you can because you feel like you're too stupid because
Wow.
that happened in the present moment and it's still the present moment. It's always the present moment. And
Yes.
so we're still feeling that way. So what we can do is go back to that present moment with our imagination
Mm.
and relive those emotions and have compassion, love, and forgiveness for everyone involved. And then
Right.
the subconscious mind will go, wait a minute. I'm not a drowning little boy in this situation. This is no threat to me anymore. I don't
Mm.
need to hold on to this anymore. And it'll just go away and you'll be healed from that. And you won't have any subconscious emotional feelings that just swell up in our belly for no reason. And we just feel like we're having a horrible day for no reason from that particular issue anymore. The
Yeah.
problem is there's another 200 of them in there and we got to go figure out what they are. But when you get rid of one, you're going to have like a euphoric feeling for about a week, and then it gets back to normal, and then you're going to go back to the normal life of feeling a certain way, and then boom, another feeling will come up, and you could rewrite another one. And so my program is basically designed to get it to to address old core beliefs, but it does it in a way where it's a 10-week program, and the core beliefs is week 8
Mm.
and it builds. So, like in the week 1 through 3, you learn in the first week how to bring your attention into the present moment because anxiety's in the future, depression's in the past. But in this
Right.
present moment right here with you, I can't have any other thoughts. There's no anxiety and depression. If 100% of my intention is right here with you, there is no problem. I can't feel any of those other things.
Right.
So in week 2, what I teach people how to do is get separation between them, the true self, and their thoughts. Because
Mm.
most people think the thoughts that they're having are theirs. It's not. Those are all coming from past memory, past trauma, and they're random negative thoughts. And we don't need to identify with us. Well, once people start to realize that, wait a minute, that I just called myself ugly or stupid, but that's not me. That's
Mm.
coming from somewhere else. They start to get a little separation between those thoughts,
Mm.
and then in the next week, you can actually start to identify negative thoughts come in, and then we grab them and reframe them. So you wake up in the morning like, you know what, today's going to be a horrible day. I don't want to go to work. Oh no, wait a minute. That's old stuff. I could reframe that. I'm going to have a beautiful day today. We're
Right.
going to kick today's butt, and then
Yeah.
all of a sudden now you feel good and you go and you have a good day. So we kind of teach them how to do that. At the end
Yeah.
of week 3, people kind of have they develop a sensitivity to negativity in their own mind,
Mm. Mm.
and then it starts to expand past that into their environment because we have so much negativity in our environments, our coworkers, our family, or maybe even our spouse. And so then we have to deal with that as well. You have to create new boundaries or maybe even lose friends that are no longer serve you.
Right.
And so
Yeah.
that's a big, if people taking this program just stopped at the end of week 3 and learned how to I call that being able to manually shift yourself into happiness.
Mm.
Because
Love
in those
it.
first 3 weeks, you learn all of these tools and these processes to manually shift yourself into a happy state. And then the next couple of weeks is like a perspective change about learning how to love yourself. You know, most people we give so much love and attention to our loved ones and other people, but we don't treat ourselves the same way.
Yeah.
So go through some exercises to help people truly just understand what it means to love themselves, and then they get perspective of whether or not they're actually doing that. And that's really a beautiful thing, especially for men, to write a love letter to yourself as a man. Most people don't want to do it, but I've seen such amazing results when people do stuff like that. And then in the last 3 weeks, when you get to 6, 7, and 8, then we get into healing, and we start removing things, attachments that the ego is going to view as a threat. We're so much more than our job title. We're so much more than a mom or a spouse or a brother or a friend.
Right.
We're infinitely so much more than those things. And if we take those identities off of our Christmas tree, or those decorations off of our Christmas tree, as I like to say, then the subconscious mind doesn't have to protect those things. And so there's less for the subconscious mind to protect, and less things for us to have all those negative thoughts and feel attacked from, because there's nothing to attack if you narrow down that to a slim list of things that you identify with.
So it's things we're carrying with us that we have to address and release in order for them to not burden us anymore emotionally or spiritually or even psychologically. And I think it's fascinating how you say we have to basically go back and re-experience that traumatic experience, but like you said, recreate it in a way so that it's reprogrammed in a different way. That's fascinating. We are such fascinating beings and I also love how I believe the most masculine men are in touch with their emotions. It's not about denying your emotions or having a bravado. When you are actually in touch with your emotions, your feelings, and you control them, you have an ability to master them and not let them control you. That is when you're operating in the fullness of your masculine energy or your feminine energy for a woman. And it's so important that we all master this, because a lot of, as you said, your spouse could be holding toxic emotions, your children, we all are emotional beings, and we have this ocean of emotion we're all dealing with, and we all need this healing. We need to be, healing ourselves and moving forward and growing again, so we can all kind of achieve this heaven on earth, this euphoric state of being all the time.
Absolutely. I couldn't have said any of that better. That is the goal. And you summed it up really well when we go inside and as a man, if I just focus at it from that perspective, part of my challenge as I grew up, I had an old core belief. My dad wasn't a part of my life as a child. And I went to Tennessee and visited him when I was a young kid. And I got this core belief from him in a drunken state. I was looking up to my dad as in a drunken state. And he was talking about old fights, about how he never would lay down. He would never fall to the ground. And he was telling these stories about how he was winning fights and whatever. And as a young, impressionable kid, I created a core belief. Well, for the next 20 years of my life, I was running from fights because grew up in a bad neighborhood, and I became so ashamed that I was running from them that I stopped and started fighting. And then I was still ashamed that I was afraid of the fights, that I kept fighting, but I didn't want to fight in the streets anymore. So I started boxing, and I was literally just facing those fears because I was so ashamed that I had all that fear in my heart. And I couldn't make it go away. And then when I'm 48 years old, I go in and sit down, and I track down to the source of where all that was coming from. And it was from that day where my dad was talking about all that. And all I had to do was reframe all that with compassion, love, and forgiveness for him, for giving me this bad advice, and for myself for making all these mistakes and judging myself the wrong way. And so I forgive myself, I forgive him. And then all of a sudden, all that's gone. And I don't have any of that anymore in me. And it's a little 12-year-old kid misunderstanding it, created a core belief that led me down a road that probably put me in 200 fights that I didn't need to be in.
Wow.
And it was silly. But our minds push us.
You said what pushes us?
our subconscious mind pushes us when those
Right.
programs get created. They push us in directions that we
Shouldn't
don't
go in.
consciously
Yeah.
any benefits
You
from.
know, this reminds me. So again, being Christian, that's sort of my paradigm of thinking. It reminds me so much of Jesus, of like his teachings of love and compassion and forgiveness, because
Yeah,
fear, the acronym is false enemies appearing real, and that can be in our mind. It can be in other people. We perceive, their actions towards us a certain way. But when we forgive everything others have done to us, when we perceive them from a place of love and compassion, it just changes the way we interact with the world around us.
yeah.
It's powerful.
Yes, it is. And I didn't grow up in a Christian environment at all. I kind of almost had an aversion to it for most of my life, and I don't have an aversion at all anymore. I actually think
Yeah,
Jesus was amazing. He walked the
yeah,
earth, and I've kind of found this combination of Buddhism and Christianity, and
yeah,
the more and more they overlap so extremely well, in my opinion. So when I've created this program, I'm borrowing from Jesus, because
yeah,
whenever you have to forgive, so there's two phrases that I use in the program when it's time to heal somebody.
yeah.
And the first one is, people in pain, they cause pain, because that's
Mm.
where it comes from. So, but then I use the second one. What did Jesus say when he was on the cross and he was dying?
Forgive them, for they know not what they do.
Exactly.
Right.
And that is so powerful. And
So
so when I
powerful.
use this in our writing
Gave me
exercise,
chills. Yeah.
it did me too. Yeah. So like at the same time, like we say people in pain, they cause pain, and I forgive them because they didn't know what they were doing. People in
Right.
pain, they literally, they're subconsciously acting on those things we were talking about earlier. And
Hmm.
when they're in pain, that's how people express it, by
Yeah.
pulling people into it. So it's so easy to forgive them once you understand how to forgive and what it truly means. And it's so liberating and so freeing.
Yes, yes, it
And it's,
is. Because we
yeah,
have a divine self. We have a higher spiritual self. And when we
absolutely.
when we operate from that place of our being, that's where we can achieve the happiness. And the fear factor really can paralyze us, as you mentioned before. It can keep you stuck. And another, scripture that comes to mind is, God's perfect love casts out all fear. And so I think when we draw near to our divine self, our relationship with God, then the fear leaves, because now we're operating really in a place of faith, and God is love, and we are loved, and I love you and you love me, and really that's the highest objective of mankind, is achieve this love of God, with God, but also to love your neighbor as yourself, and so love is
Yeah.
the core, the heart of and as
That,
your program teaches, loving even yourself.
yes. What you're saying is so beautiful. And one of the parts in the program I kind of glossed over, but in week 3, it's
Hmm.
called the fear bucket, moving out of the fear bucket into the love bucket. And
Yes.
we are literally created in a way that when we're having fearful, negative thoughts, cortisol is being created in our body, which keeps us in that cycle. But
Yeah.
when it takes 2 minutes to shift those thoughts into positive thoughts, and now
Hmm.
all of a sudden we start making oxytocin. Most people don't know about oxytocin, but oxytocin is a love drug. And
Mm.
when we start to produce that love drug, 10 minutes later, if we continue to have positive negative thoughts, we're literally in a drug induced state of happiness
Right.
by just shifting the thoughts in our head, like a gratitude journal where you write down just what you're saying. 2 minutes in, you shifted out of cortisol into oxytocin. 8 minutes later, you feel wonderful after writing what you're grateful for. And it's literally exactly what you said. This is how we were created. That
Yes.
we were created in this way. And fear will paralyze you. But
Hmm.
what's happening out in the world is irrelevant. We get to create what's happening in our head, and we get to take control of it. So we
Yeah.
literally get to shift our environment and how we're experiencing by the thoughts that are in our head, and we are in control of them.
Yeah.
And it's extremely powerful once you grab a hold of that and you learn to use these tools in a way that you incorporate them into your daily life.
Yes.
You just start to take control, which is powerful for people who are struggling with anxiety and depression, because when people are struggling, it feels like a hopelessness. Well, then you
Right.
give them these tools, and the hopelessness is gone.
Yeah.
They just start to get, wait a minute, I can take control. This is
Yeah.
amazing. It lights up a fire in them.
It's incredible. It's so empowering. And I think really that's is God's intention for us, is for us to be empowered, spiritually strong, live in love and joy and happiness, and peace. So your program sounds incredible, and it's a 10-week life transformational program. How can people get in touch with you? How can they sign up? How can they get involved in the program?
Very simple. LearnToLoveBeingYou.com. It's live right now. It's going to have some more updates, more stuff, but it's up. It's live right now. Anybody can have access to it. And here's the thing that I'll say about this. I've not made it cheap. It's $500 to get it started. But
That
what I'll
seems a
say
very
about
small price to pay to change your life and to learn the
absolutely.
tools to be empowered to do so.
It is, and I struggle with the price. And if anybody's struggling and they can't afford it, reach out to me at mike@learntolovebeingyou.com, and we'll work with you. But the thing about it is, if you feel like you're struggling and you know that there's something better out there, and if you take this, you're thinking about taking this program. If you dedicate an hour a day, that's what this program takes. If you dedicate an hour a day to this program, it will 100% work. But you have to be willing to put in the work. And what I've told people, because I've had a handful of people start the program and then not do it. But the ones who dedicated an hour a day, even if you skip a day, or some people go on vacation and they'll stop on a vacation. As long as you get back on that horse and you keep going, it is life altering. You will not be the same person 3 weeks in, and at the end of it, you won't even recognize the old you. It is empowering. And I've got testimonials that you'll be able to see on the website of people that could basically reaffirm this. But life, it has to suck. You have to be sick and tired of being sick and tired. But if you are, then you're going to be willing to work an hour a day to your healing. You didn't get all this anxiety and depression overnight, and you won't be able to get rid of it overnight. But what I will say is anxiety is extremely easy to get rid of. In the first week or two, you're going to have all the tools to make anxiety go away, and it's amazing. You pretty much got it conquered. You'll have to use the tools because it'll still flare up, and you'll have the tools to make it go away. But depression is probably a 2 to 3 year plan.
Wow.
But you'll have the tools to where you can go back to those old core beliefs and you rewrite them, and you take things off your Christmas tree, and you'll learn how to forgive. And that's a longer healing process. But this program, once you get to the end, there's a continued healing program that continues on and then push you towards that. Because depression, you can't solve it in 10 weeks. It's not possible. But you can solve it if you put yourself on a plan to get there. And just getting to the end of the program, you're going to have tools that that are going to benefit your life. But if you truly want to rid yourself of anxiety like I have, and depression like I believe that I have, I cannot even express what it feels like when your heart chakra opens up for no reason and you just feel like you're being hugged by God. Like there's so many things about how I feel today that I didn't think was like, it's sci-fi almost. Like I don't know. It's hard to explain and express in words, but you can get on this path of experiencing a life that's so much infinitely different than what we've all been told it is.
Right. So it's like there is a weapon against our enemy, depression, and that weapon is love and self-love and the love of God. And so, true change comes through commitment. And enrolling in this program with you, Mike, learning to love being you is a step in the right direction for anyone who's suffering from anxiety or depression. There is hope. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. So I just want to thank you, Mike, for coming on, for sharing your journey and your program with us and our listeners, our readers. I really believe that so many people will be positively impacted and experience the transforming power of love in their lives because of this. So I commend you, I honor you, and I thank you once again, and I wish you, boundless success with this program.
Thank you so much. This has been a joy talking to you.
It certainly has. I wish you the best and look forward to, keeping up with you and having you on in the future.
Absolutely. I'd love to come back.
God bless you, Mike. We'll see you soon.
All right. Take care.
Take care.